All right.
Who am I texting the messages to?
1, 2, 3. We're going.
We're live right now on Facebook. Hey, Facebook world.
Daniel, can you check if that that's going live right now? It's already going. If you can see me here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so Tiger, when I play this back, it's going to be loud in your headphones. So what we'll do is we'll record like just 10 seconds worth. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll stop it, pull the headphones off. I'll play it back. I can't turn it because the volume's over here, so I'll just play it out. We'll see how it sounds.
Okay.
And as long as everyone's voice is clear, we're good to go.
Okay, cool.
Okay, this is just a test. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Testing.
Test. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Testing.
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
The headphones off. It's gonna be loud.
You say it was ky.gov or com?
Okay, this is just a test. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Testing.
Test. 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing.
1, 2, 3.
3, 2, 1.
Let's do it. Okay, this is just a test. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Testing.
Test.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Testing.
I can see you
3, 2,
guys
1.
live on that
Sounds
phone,
good.
and I can see you live on this.
You can see live?
Yep.
Gotta talk nice and clear for the Facebook Live.
Hey, just be yourself, man. Just be yourself.
As usual.
Exactly. All right. We good?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Let's roll.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Life and Dentistry Podcast.
Hey.
Glad to have you back.
What's going on, podcast world?
And
So-
Facebook Live.
So let me get this straight. Like, am I talking to a bunch of doctors right now? Is that?
I think so.
I think you have to call this doctor. No.
Well, I mean,
I'm not calling you doctor.
We just went to a restaurant and Scotty signed his receipt. Scotty Blanchard, DMD. Why not,
I
right?
had to see it.
Why not?
I got my first email yesterday, addressed to Dr. Blaylock. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I got one that said Cole Hackett, DMD.
It's
And
weird.
actually, that's how it started. Cole Hackett, DMD. This, and this.
Do y'all feel any different? Like, are you smart?
you said you got something?
I haven't
Yeah.
got anything yet.
Not in the mail, like an
I
email.
haven't either. I need to go check on that.
An email.
If you guys are. No, but how's it feel? I mean, we're done with dental school now. This is our first official podcast as dentists. You know? I
It
mean,
really hasn't sank in yet for me.
We were talking about it earlier. For me, it's kind of been like when you go from 24 to 25 and people ask you, do you feel older? It's like, not really. No, I don't feel older. I don't know. I just it feels the same. I mean, I was expecting something weird to happen, you know, but it's just the same.
progressed. Like over so many years, it's like if you'd have went straight from undergrad to being Dr. Hackett, you'd have been like, oh my gosh. But it's like over time, people slowly started calling you doctor.
Yeah.
You know,
I
in
agree with
school.
that.
So it's kind of like it's like we shouldn't be used to it, but it's like, It's not
we
a
really
big
are.
deal.
You know, some of the professors have been calling us that for a couple of years now. So
either way, I'm proud of you boys.
just in that mindset already.
Didn't think you
We
were
made
going to
it.
make it.
I didn't think I was going to make
So
it.
we may be the first podcasting group that can say we made the transition from dental students to dentists through the podcast transition.
That's
There you
good.
I'd be willing to go with it first.
Hey, I like doing this first kind of stuff.
Let's keep it going.
Trailblazing. All right, so everybody out there, we have a very, very exciting episode. At least I'm excited about it. I know these guys are excited about it. We have a very exciting guy here with us today, Tiger Safarov. He is familiar with the podcasting world. He's done some podcasting himself with some other guys out there that y'all are probably familiar with. So just a little background on Tiger. Tiger moved to America from Russia in 2005 and did not know a single word of English. 2 years later, he founded Siegel Construction while getting his bachelor's in engineering at the Illinois Institute of Technology. Siegel then became one of the premier dental and medical design build firms in Chicago. He now has transitioned. He did that in 2015. He transitioned from Siegel and now has another startup called Zen Supplies. And it's really kind of changing the world of dentistry as far as inventory, ordering supplies, all that in dental practices. And we're going to get into that a little bit during the podcast. So, Tiger, we appreciate you coming on with us.
Thank you, guys. This is going to be exciting.
Welcome.
We've had a fun time so far. We drove and picked him up, had a nice conversation for a little while in the car.
Yeah.
Unexpected
And,
road trip.
Yeah, it's been exciting so far. Been very exciting.
It's just how life is, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So how was your trip in, Tiger? What's your experience like in Kentucky so far?
Well, I didn't know what to expect to begin with, right? So all I knew is I'm just going to sit down with a bunch of guys, like-minded people, just stay till 1 o'clock in the morning and just talk about business, right? So, I mean, the night just started. Like, this podcast, let's just get it out of the way, right? So, and then we'll move on. But, like, for real, I really wanted to get together. This is always exciting to sit with, like I said, like-minded people, talk about business. It's very rare these days to find people that really, genuinely think about the same things, right? A lot of people want to do fun stuff, crazy stuff. I think for a lot of us, what we're actually going to be talking about, it's actually deep down in the heart, and I think that's what I'm excited about. Excited to see the countryside, excited to chat with Dr. Larkin. I think it's going to be awesome all together, so thank you guys.
Speaking of the countryside and Dr. Larkin, we are actually live recording at Dr. Larkin's guest house here in Lexington, overlooking a horse farm out the window here. We've almost got like a panoramic view out the window, and I think he said the Prince of Dubai owns this these horses and this horse farm out here.
Wow.
So we're at Darley View Inn here in Lexington, and gorgeous view, and just really excited about having Tiger here and the scenery and hanging out with a great group of guys. So Tiger, if you would, let's start on your journey on this podcast in Russia, heading this way. How did that all happen?
I mean, I was born in March, right? So it's a crazy month. You have full of energy. You grow up, actually Daniel and I picked up on that a little earlier. You grow up, back then I didn't know you growing up poor, right? You grow up, you just go to the grocery store. I still remember my dad buying apples, and these are rotten apples, and you come home and you just cut out the rotten piece and then you just eat them just like normal life. You don't think about it. But I think it all adds up to being that having that hustler nerve within you, right? Not being afraid things. It's pretty interesting how in life when you see the rough side, right? So the good side becomes kind of a little unnatural. You're like, is that real? And so, you become that kind of person that you're not afraid of things, and that kind of helps you to go through life and push forward.
Okay. I never had the experience of having to eat rotten food. I have one funny food story.
Yeah.
And the rule was in our house, if there was food at the table, you ate it.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom made some fried okra one time. And
that's
the thought of fried okra for me, I just can't take it. So there's this big bowl of fried okra, and none of us kids wanted to eat the okra. And Dad said, Mom said, if Dad doesn't eat it, none of you have to eat it. So Dad grabs a big spoonful of it, sticks it in his mouth. He's like, it's great. And he starts to chew it, and he just couldn't take it. And he starts spitting it out, just all over the table. And so Mom was like, y'all don't have to eat it now. So it's a big relief.
So he
for me
bailed
sitting
you
there.
guys.
Yeah, he bailed us out. Yeah. So you grew up with struggles, and you get to the States, don't know an ounce of English.
Yep.
How did you, for me, I just can't imagine going to Russia, roles reversed, going to Russia, not knowing any of the language and trying to survive, let alone start businesses.
I mean, it's hard to think about these things in retrospect, but in reality, if you think about it, America is a very unique country, right? We're very forgiving. And when I say we, I'm fully integrated. You can't really kick me out of here anymore. So, we're very forgiving. We're very welcoming. We're very, down deep in our hearts, want to help people. And so, I'll be honest with you, it's easy to come to America. It's easy to be an immigrant in America. I know that some people will not agree with me, but, the life that I've lived, my personal experience, I love it. You know, I know how hard it is for immigrants to come to Russia. Like I tell, if anybody's packing your stuff to go to immigrate to Russia, don't do it. Or it's impossible. And so like, I don't want to take too much credit for it. I think the country is great, the setting is great. I think that you want to accomplish a lot of things, that kind of helps. And what's really nice in this country is when you want to achieve something, you don't have to hide it. You can tell people, look, this is what I want to achieve, and people will help, right? You guys experienced that too. In other countries, it's a little different. A lot of people will say, well, let's see, and they might trick you out a bit. But like I said, this is in the best country on the planet Earth.
Well, you know, you're really humble when you say that. But we've heard your story. We know you had your own business in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you were telling us some success stories you had there. So obviously you have that innate, that instinct, that drive, that entrepreneur spirit to want to go out and do something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when you came here, what was it like kind of, you had a vision of starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
You started a couple now. What was the process like for you? You know, you had a business in Russia, now coming to the U.S., not knowing English, learning English, and then starting a business.
So I think I'll tell you the funny story. So when I came here, like you guys, I told you this story, right? My goal was to buy a BMW and just go back to Russia, right? So I came here, I thought I'm going to make sure I make enough money, then I'm going to pack my stuff and go back. And so somewhere in the middle, somewhere around, I came June 5, 2005. And then around August, I'm like, maybe I should stay. Maybe it's going to be a good country. And then I met a guy who basically came here in his 40s. He basically built a big business, bought a huge house and things like that. And him and I sat down and he said, look, you can literally do anything in this country. And I said, what do you mean anything? He's like, literally anything. And I said, well, can I start a business? He says, yeah. I'm like, so what do you need to do to start a business? He said, well, you just need to pay taxes. That's it. And I said, nobody's going to knock on your door and say, I'm going to take your business because you're a cool guy, like I don't like you anymore. He's like, no, it's only people in Russia that do that. And so to me, that was inspiring because now I can go to sleep not worrying about that as long as I do the right things and it's just going to be fine. And at the same time, I always talk about you got to know yourself very well, right? So your own personality. Going through a couple of the and again, back in Russia, I didn't know that there were businesses. I was just trying to make a buck, you know, just to go by. And another thing I told you guys, which sometimes is embarrassing for me to say because, you know, I work with doctors, very educated people, I really sucked at school. And I needed to find that faucet for myself to find that niche where I can be good at, right? We're all striving to be good at something. And then when you don't have it, like when your peers are getting A's in math and you really can't put 2 and 2 together, you got to find something else. And so to me, that was getting cell phones from Moscow, selling it in my city, making a little extra and, you know, like trying to do that thing. And then when you come here to this country, it's very refreshing. Like when I was 16, I wanted to open my first store. And I went to the guy who basically was the head of the city, and he said, you can't do it. And I said, why? He said, you're too young. And I said, can you give me a better reason? He's like, no, you're just too young. I'm not going to let you do it. Right? So it's like that. And here, again, like you can be 11 years old if you want to and start any business. And technically, anybody in this country who's 7, 6, 8 can put a lemonade stand and sell lemonades, right? Sell baseball cards and do anything and make money.
Do that in Russia?
No. I mean, you can, but it's just different, you know.
See, my eyes were open. We were talking earlier today about, you know, we were talking about old money and how it spans maybe 20 years in Russia until the powers change. You know, here it goes, you know, old money can go back 100 years. Can you elaborate on that for our listeners, what you meant by that? Because my eyes were open to that. I really didn't know that that's how it was.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting, especially for people that are outside, just to look at the history of Russia, right? Like we're going on a huge tangent right now, but we always strive for a few things in life, right? We strive for love, we strive for consistency, we strive for the sort of like predictability, right? And like the government of Russia has a very good history of almost every 100 years somebody comes in the power and just wiping out everything, the rich, the middle class, and everything. And so, you know, like the Russian history only has 20 years or 25 years of old sort of speak money because only in 1990 somebody came in, made some money, and that's it.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
You know, another thing you said that hits home with me is you said you weren't the most successful person in school. And I don't know if you've gathered this. From what I've seen, a lot of the really successful entrepreneurs did not do well at school. And it's not because they were dumb. It was because they're not necessarily the type that would just follow the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking ideas. They're the ones that are diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, and it's not because they have some problem or they're dumb. They're really smart. They have great ideas, and they just don't follow the exact protocol that everybody wants you to follow.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see that? And
100%.
do you see that in yourself? I mean, you're obviously not a dumb guy.
Yeah, I hope so.
I know you can put two.
I mean, lately I figured out how to do it, and plus iPhone.
Multiply now, right?
Right, you got a calculator on your iPhone. When I figured that out, that's it. I was like, now I can do it. Now I can really sell my business, so I can multiply it. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, and I think what's really interesting, a lot of times, people talk about success, and people, as I mentioned, like I didn't know what it's what, right? You just go and do it, right? You got to figure out for yourself. I do agree, though, that I mean, most of my friends who run businesses, they have that very short attention span. I definitely do. I don't know how my team puts up with me because I change things on the fly all the time. To me, speed is more important than anything else. And just doing that, it's difficult. I agree with you. But you're also dealing with a lot of social pressure, right? Like I said, being a kid, not being able to fit in the mold of what quote unquote success means when you're a kid, it's pretty hard, right? And just going through some rough times with your friends that you're just not accepted.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been through Russia to the United States. You've learned the language. Why Chicago? How'd you get into the school that you got into? How did that all happen?
Al Capone did it for me, man.
Yeah.
I was like, that guy owned the whole America back in the day, so I'm like, I'm going there.
Chicago's place.
Yeah. And it's funny, I always go to some old restaurants and I'm trying to find the hideaways where Al Capone would hide. Like, I would talk to the waiters and I would be like, yo, like, I know this place where Al Capone would used to go. They're like, yeah. I'm like, so where's the dugout? They're like, no, there's not. And I'm like, come on, just show it to me. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, Chicago is a great town. My family's there right now. My family is everything to me. They're very important. And so it's just a good place. I think it brings you down to earth a lot more. I think the people are a lot more real. I always find it funny that I have friends in LA. When they come to Chicago, they're like, wow, this is the reality. Because they think that they live in a reality, which is sometimes not true.
Yeah. So then you're at the college that you were at, and you're not even finished. You haven't graduated, and you're already thinking about starting a business. Our listeners know Daniel and Matthew in our group started their startup, their dental practice as third-year dental students. Dr. Larkin did the same thing in dental school. You had your own first startup in the United States in college. I mean, is it just take guts? I mean, what was your vision for that? How did that all happen?
It's all accidental.
Yeah.
It just, you got to take a chance sometimes. You got to take the opportunity. It was very simple too. I go through the college. I'm at Illinois Tech. I'm doing my 21 credit hour semester. And then one of my classes just happened to be the estimating class, right? So, and then I'm doing that, I'm working on it. And then the opportunity comes, again, just through people, right? Like you learn something about somebody. And then the opportunity comes and somebody says, well, there's going to be a big project. And for me, it's always been, can I try it? Can I do it? Right? So it's like always trying to get yourself in deep hole and then try to dig out. Right? I always actually joke about one of my strategies in college was pretty interesting. I never shared with anybody, but I would literally put myself in such a deep hole. Like from the week 1 to week 8, I wouldn't submit any homework on purpose. Right? Not because I was lazy. I just really wanted to test myself out to see if I can get out. Yeah. And so week number 8, I would go to a professor and he would be like, he would be like, Tiger, you really suck. And I'd be, oh my God. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like that process of getting out of the trouble is more interesting for me. And so that was it. I would be like, so what can I do? He's like, well, you're obviously not getting an A. I'm like, really? There's no way I can get an A? He would be like, no. I'm like, all right, so can I get at least a C? And he would say, well, this is what you got to do. Just submit all the homework. And like that process was interesting. And then at the end of the semester, I would get a C and I'll be fine.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
I think I kind of did that in dental school. Just didn't know.
Yeah.
I would have waited and let everything follow.
Yeah.
But that's really cool you say that, man. You know, I think it's people, you have to have that mentality, I think, to really to push the limits. You're pushing the limits, man. You know, it's cool for us to be here with you because you are pushing the envelope on this.
I'll tell you one thing. So talking back about, if we go back to about the business. So when I started my first one, Siegel Construction, I didn't have a vision, right? Back then, all I knew, Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, right? And the next thing I knew later, after I started my business, the economy is going to go down. It was 2007, December, going into 2008. I mean, I had no clue that economy is going to go down. And now I'm opening the worst business possible you can open when economy is tanking, right? And so again, maybe I'm lucky that I don't read any news still till this day. I just do not. It just doesn't register for me. And so I'm there. I'm opening up this business very accidentally, and it's a true story. I'll be very honest. Like, I submitted the proposal to the guy who owned the building. He went ski. I went skiing. He calls me on a Christmas day and he says, "Tiger, you got the job." And I was like, "Yes." But then I'm like, holy shit, then what, right? And then I don't have a company. He says, "Stop by tomorrow. I'm going to write a check and sign a contract. Let's go." And literally, I went to the coffee shop and I Googled how to start a construction business. Then got to Google, right? And then I found a contract, brought a contract. He's like, "What's the name of the company?" I said, let me figure out. And right, so he literally writes a check for $6,000 for Siegel Construction. He spelled Siegel wrong, but I have a check now.
SEAGULL?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he writes the check, and I have the check, and I'm like, now this is getting a check is not a problem. We live in America, money grow on the tree. Now getting people to work, that's the problem, right? So that's what everybody outside of America thinks, that the money grow on the tree. Now getting people to work was a challenge, because now I literally had to hold the check and get the subcontractors or the people that I would know to go and build a project for me. And I was a kid, 22 years old. How would they know?
So the question I have, and I'm assuming a lot of listeners have the same question, but you get a check for $6,000. You've been in the States for 2 years.
I'm pumped.
You've decided.
I've made it.
So you've decided you're going to start this company. All right. So like you say, you've got to have boots on the ground. You've got to have people on your team working with you. You've got to have funds, which in my mind, $6,000 for a construction business, when you're paying contractors and different people, that seems like just enough to get somebody to show up for one day. I mean, how do you practically, and how did you practically go from one day to the next to make the money you've got to make to keep people showing up, get people to buy in, and build a construction company that now continues to be successful, even though you obviously started it and got it going, but it's continuing now. How does that even work?
I wasn't practical. You just don't think. I seriously did not think. So
start now.
It's just how it is, right? So I started it, and then I have the check, and then I go home and I go to bed. I get up in the morning and I say, okay, so now I need to get people, and you go and get people. And then it's like, I talked about this with Mark Costas on his podcast, is when you're in that mode of just figuring things out and not paying attention, like people will say, well, you're dumb and stupid. You're like, okay, fine, it's just your opinion. You move on to the next, and then this and this and this, and you just go until you find. This country is huge. There's so much opportunity. We can do anything, right? And that's at least what I was told. And I still believe in that. And now, when I needed to get people to work, I just showed up to their houses, right? And I talked to their wives, not to them. And I was like, look, trust me, this is the check. When I opened the bank account, and for Chase back then, it took 20 days to open your bank account, right? To form the company and things like that. So literally, I had to convince the guys to buy material on their credit cards, and then do the work, and then this, and then I wrote the check for them. And on my first project, I made $2,000. I was pumped. I was like, this is it.
Not enough for BMW, but you were...
Not yet, but I'm like, okay, now I know what to do.
It's coming.
Yeah. So, you just don't think.
Dude, what I'm getting out of this is you're fearless. You have a different mindset than people that grew up, I don't want to say privileged, but people that grew up in the U.S., we take things for granted, man. That's just, I don't mean to be offensive. I take things for granted every day.
Everybody does.
You didn't have that. You came here, someone told you, this is opportunity here. You said, okay, it is. you're not going to take no for an answer, and you were fearless, and you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Scotty said it at dinner. You know, what do you say that the graveyards are full of?
Yeah, and you know, I've heard that on a number of other speakers, but you know, the graveyards are the most wealthy place because that's where all the
ideas,
the inventions, all of the great things that could have taken place, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but people were too afraid to take that chance.
But you're doing it.
And most people on their deathbed, you know, they're not looking back thinking about the amount of money or the amount of businesses, placing a lot of importance on that, what they did. You know, it all comes down to how they changed people's lives, and the regrets are, you know, I didn't take this opportunity to do this or that when I had the chance because I was too scared.
Yeah, and this guy's doing it.
And I think you know, going back to what you were just saying, you know, growing up in such a privileged country, we don't understand the opportunities. Most of the time, I'm speaking for myself, and probably, you know, the majority of people that grow up in the United States and, you know, privileged countries, you know, we just don't understand how good we actually have it. You know, and
just the fact that you can start a business.
Oh yeah.
Right? Just literally one paper that you need to send to your state, and you're in business and you can open a bank account. It's like people take this one thing for granted. I mean, besides like having clean water and all that great, really great stuff. Like literally, like that's such a freedom to do whatever you want to do. Just think about that, right? Yeah.
Okay, so now you're at the point where you've got Siegel up and running, everything's going great. It ended up being...
It wasn't going great, but yeah, we can dive into that.
So, all right, so then I was going to transition into the new startup.
Yeah.
So
I have one in between that failed miserably.
What was that?
So I got really cocky, and this sometimes happens. So I literally, as I'm building my Siegel construction, it was hard, but like, it's not the kind of business my personality fits for, but I built it the best I could. My last year we did about $6 million in sales, and then I decided that's it, I'm done. I sold the business, and then I'm like, I'm gonna do marketing, right? And so I got a couple people together. We started a marketing company called Dental Grape, okay? And so I'm doing now marketing the smart way, but I was cocky as hell. Right? I would walk in a dental office, I'd be like, yo, I just sold my business. Like literally it just happened, right? And then that business failed so bad. On top, I mean, I was not mentally there. I wanted to travel. I was a little tired after building the first one. And then the second, my cockiness, my ego took over. And then the third one is I just didn't fit right. And then that kind of prepared me for the next one.
So what kind of marketing were you trying to do with this Dental Grape?
I was kind of sick of people on Facebook showing up, like a 21 or 22-year-old kids trying to tell dentists how to do marketing on Facebook, and like all these courses and all that. I was like, this is bullshit, pardon my French. And I'm like, we just got to do something different. And so I built a pretty interesting package for like $2,000 a month. We would take care of all the social media, all the postings, but not in a way that you put on Facebook, like sign up today for my whitening and call our office, but no, like very creative, calling the patients, going to patients' houses and things like that, doing all that crazy stuff. And I would actually make my doctors follow up with the patients after the procedure, especially like the really tough one. You know, I don't know if they had an extraction, for example, or something like that. I would literally make the dentist call them, and we as a follow-up would send the flowers in the doctor's behalf, right? Like something like that. So that was totally like, it's like, we called it heart marketing, right? To win patients' hearts. And so that went really well. We had 2 customers, but again, it just was not the right thing for me.
Yeah. So Tiger, I got a question too. So throughout this journey, you know, all the businesses that you had success and failures with, how did you stay focused when you would fail? It's safe to say that you are the type of person that embraces failures. You know, I've heard it, you know, and I've experienced it to a certain extent that you learn more almost when you fail versus succeeding. But I know so many people, they're so scared to take a plunge to do whatever they want to do because of fear. And when you know, certain times when you fail, like how did you bounce back from that? What was your mindset? How did you get back on your feet, stay focused, and and look to the next goal.
Yeah. So I won't BS you to say, well, failures are not, they're there meant to be and all that. They're hard, right? Like even in personal life, failures are hard, right? You're moving on from a relationship sometimes and they're hard. But what you do is just, you always keep your mind on the end goal. Like, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to accomplish as a human being? Are you going to sit and grind and just cry about your loss? I mean, if you're that kind of person, knock your socks off. Please do, right? If that's going to make you feel good. I know some people that would just want and wait for somebody to pat them and be like, well, you're going to try it one more time. I'm just not that my kind of personality. And then I also learned from Tony Robbins, our mind works very interestingly. I'm not a scientist. You probably guys know this more than I do. But I know one thing for damn sure. It's all about the questions you ask yourself, right? So you get in the deepest problem, and you ask yourself one question, and your mind just literally changes its own. You say, what's good about it? That's it. You say, so what's good about it? And whatever you feed your mind, the mind will find the answer. If you say, why do I suck so much? Well, your mind will tell you, why do you suck so much? Right? If like sometimes you meet a girl and you're like, and she doesn't answer and you're like, oh, I'm probably bad looking and this, because your mind is searching for all the excuses, right? But if you say what's good about it, it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
Well,
mindset.
With the name like Tiger,
Oh yeah.
you didn't fail for long. So that's a cool story. All right, so you told us about the name Tiger.
Yeah.
On the way up here.
Yeah.
All right. In the America.
Yeah.
That name is bad to the bone.
Yeah.
But you said it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
What? Tell us how you got that. Was it as cool in Russia as it was?
No. So when I was born, my name was actually spelled Tagir, and but everybody called me Tiger since I was a kid. My mom called me. So in Spanish, it's pretty similar, Tigre, right? So like in Spanish, it would be like El Tigre, for example. But like my mom called me Tigre. It was natural for me, but it was not something like you go and you just like, like in Russian actually sounds very weird, but I love the language, but it sounds not like American or English. And so when I came here, and I also had a funny story, I had a 13-letter last name. It was so long and a weird first name, it didn't even fit in the driver's license, and so with my first name, I remember they started calling me just by TAG, tag. And I'm like, I'm not a tag, right? Like you can't tag me to something, right? I'm going to tag yourself now. So like, that's my personality. And then I remember the first time somebody said like, what's your name? And I'm like, so not super confident like at all. I was like, Tiger? That's my name? I'd be like, Tiger? I was, yeah. And then I told you the story. Then I met a doctor. We're working on the deal. After a couple shots, he's like, so what's your name? I was like, my name is Tiger. Like very like confidently. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I got this. And then we signed the deal and I was like, whoa, it actually works,
Tiger, man.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I thank my parents till this day. Like, I think that name fits so perfectly for me. It's just like, I can't even imagine a different name for me. It's just perfect.
Nice. So, okay, so now, let's get into Zen Supplies a little bit.
Yeah.
How did you go from where you were with Dental Grapes, now Zen Supplies, and that's a pretty new startup now?
So after being cocky as hell and being like in the losses and collecting your losses, it's just you got to find your niche and you got to find what's next. I had some pretty interesting personal on the personal life things going on. And I just needed an outcome. I just needed something fresh and something new. I knew that I can be good at something, and I knew that this is the biggest thing I always actually refer to. There's a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs, but not to put anybody down. I think the true definition of entrepreneur is just when you just can't work for somebody, right? Like I could not imagine getting a job. That's not a good or bad, it's just for me. And so I was looking at different opportunities, and I'm always inspired to learn from different people, and there were people that were doing great things at the moment. I wanted to join their teams. But it's funny the way life works. I would call him and be like, hey, John, I heard you're doing this thing. And he's like, yeah, I'm starting this thing. I'm like, can I join? He's like, no. I'm like, what's up? We've been friends. He's like, you're overqualified. I'm like, what? I sucked at school. What do you mean I'm overqualified, right? And it's just the way life works. It's very interesting. The opportunities I wanted to jump in, they weren't available. And the funny part is there's another startup in Chicago. I was talking to them and I said, guys, we were thinking about working together, and they're in somewhat similar space. They're also doing an incredible job with the dental supply industry, but in a different way. It's a marketplace. And I talked to them and said, I'll join you, but this is what I want to focus on, is the inventory. And they're like, no, I don't think it's our focus. I'm like, all right, I'm just doing it on my own then. They're like, okay, you do it on your own. And then that's how it started. And then I got a couple of friends together. I've built good friendships with a lot of people. And I reached out to some people. I said, look, I'd like to start this tech company. And they're like, aren't you a construction guy? I'm like, I still don't know how to put a drywall together. What do you mean a construction guy? Well, I'm a business guy first. So like it just started. It just happened rolling.
Okay, so something just to kind of take a step back real quickly. I don't think you said this, but from the get-go, when you started Siegel and then Dental Grapes, now Zen Supplies, how do you get in the dentistry side of things? I mean, why construction of dental offices from the get-go instead of something else?
I thank whatever is up there for putting me on this path. I think dentistry is one of the best fields. I think dentistry attracts one of the best people. It's just an amazing industry. But for me, the way it started, it was very interesting. So I'm building an optometry office in one of the suburbs in Chicago, right? So I'm running around. One of my shticks was having a clean job site, believe it or not. So like I was known for having you can walk in and literally take your shoes off, and that was my job site. Like I would literally sign contracts with my vendors. And I would say, if you don't clean the job site in the beginning and at the end of the day, I will charge you $250 per one time, right? And I was actually making a lot of good money in the beginning when the vendors were not on board with me. Yeah, I was like, all right, I'll pick up the broom, I'll clean it. I just made $500, right, in half an hour. So I did that, but I'm building an office, and then two ladies walk by and they knock on the door and they say, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm building an optometry office. And they say, well, can we take a look? I gave them the hard hats. They saw it. They're like, this is really clean. I'm like, yeah, that's how I run. And then they say, well, we'll call you. I say, what do you guys do? They're like, we're the marketing company. I'm like, what's going to happen? 2 months after, they call me and they say, we have a dentist that builds an office in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is one of the suburbs. You want to take a look? And I said, of course. So I meet with a doctor, great doctor. We're still good friends, Dr. Junhan. A big shout out to him. And so he's like, why would I work with you? And I said, I'm the youngest. I'm the hungriest. Like, I will not have any change orders. And later I realized I was the cheapest. And so but he still signed up with me and he gave me the chance.
I'm the hungriest. My name is Tiger.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm on the prowl.
Yeah. So that's how I got into dental.
Yeah. Okay. So with Zen Supplies, explain to us kind of how that works. In my mind, I hope you don't find this offensive, but kind of like a mixture between Amazon, Groupon kind of type deal for dental supplies. I mean,
So let's make it clear. Who's your audience? If you guys have any distributors, I'll change my tone.
I don't know. I don't know of any.
Good question.
No, I'm just joking. Anybody can listen. I mean, obviously we are compared to Amazon sometimes, but I think the biggest difference is my passion is getting organized. Like that's why our slogan is "Let's get organized." I love it. I breathe it. I just live with that, right? I love being organized in any way, in any shape possible. So for me, when I visit dental offices, and by that point when I sold Siegel, I personally work with at least 100 clinics that we built. I saw it all. Like I would come in and I see, the most organized offices and the most disorganized offices. And to me, it was always interesting. The most organized offices, they had the most organized team. They had the most organized financials, they had most organized life, and they were the happiest, right? And so it just somehow trickled down all together. And so to me, I was like, maybe if I organize dental supplies, people will be more happier, right? So I don't know, I'm on my journey. And I found this opportunity, and for us, inventory management is first.
Mm-hmm. So Tiger showed us a video earlier today. How can people find that video on YouTube where you grab the rubber bands and everything? Explain that whole thing.
I have to post it on our page, but
we can put a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we're running ads, and the way on Facebook ads work, you don't have to necessarily post it on your page. You can just have it out there running as an ad. But To be honest with you, I talked with a lot of office managers, and I got sick of an example of rubber bands, right? And it's how office managers run dental supplies with rubber bands. And I say it should be a lot easier than that. And so I made a video where I talked to rubber band.
We gotta get that out there.
We'll put it out
People
there.
will love that.
So we got a question from somebody on Facebook Live.
Cool.
Okay.
Let's do it. I love questions.
About you. This comes from Jonathan Taylor.
Okay. What's up, Jonathan?
He wants to know a little bit about kind of what sets you apart from maybe other companies doing the same thing, or are there even other companies doing the same thing that you're doing? Is this like a new thing?
Yeah. Do they have Tiger?
I don't think there's no other Tiger.
I don't think so either. Right? No, but with all seriousness, I think there will be. We talked about this today. We were kind of the first ones to come out of the gate to say, not only are we going to organize inventory, but the purchasing and things like that all together. There are companies out there that will organize your inventory. You can use barcode scanners, which I think it's yesterday. Then there's also companies that will do like just pricing for you. But to organize it all, that with one push of the button, you can have your entire inventory. I know your stock levels, I know what you have, and I know what you need to have, and I can tell you where to send that entire order at that moment and get the best deal. That does not exist. And so there will be companies that will be copy me. But again, I don't think anybody will put as much passion as I will.
Yeah.
So Tiger, am I correct in saying that you have a heart for the solo practitioner, or are you targeting your bigger group practices as well?
It's a hard question because I actually have a heart for a dental office, right?
Yeah.
Even when you talk to the groups, there's a Sally who is a lead assistant in that one specific office. Mm-hmm. And I care about Sally more than if it's a solar doctor or if it's a group. Yeah.
Well, you said earlier a good little comment you made about you got a text message from, was it a dental assistant?
Yeah,
One of the offices?
yeah. It's a group. That was the group actually. They have 13 offices, one of our clients, and one of the lead assistants sent us a Snapchat, right? So we're on Snapchat as crazy. Like we literally, as a company, Zen Supplies, we get a lot of questions on Snapchat, which is funny. And so we get a Snapchat, Gloria, she sends it, and she's like, thank you so much, guys. I'm home with my kid an hour early, and I could have been doing dental supplies right now. To me, that's
awesome.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
So, I know you don't want to talk about Zen Supplies too much. You know,
Yeah, we're
we're
like,
interested in it.
yeah.
So, our audience are younger dentists.
Yeah.
There's a lot of associates, guys going in to be associates, guys and gals. What do we need to do if we're interested in Zen Supplies? We're an associate.
Yeah.
You know, how do we talk to the doctor? What's the best way to present that to the office?
I would say, you may not like my answer, but I'll stay true to myself. Worry about yourself. As an associate, you guys just figure out what you want to do. Zen Supplies will be there. We're not going anywhere, right? We will be successful. We have really good customers. If you're an associate, you're just finishing the dental school, just make sure you become a really, really good dentist. You become a really, really good person and a really good practitioner and a really good business person, right? Because a lot of dentists purchase and go into the owning businesses and owning the practices for their own reasons. Just because your friend who went to the same dental school has a big house and he owns or she owns a dental clinic, that's not the reason for you to own a clinic. And so that's where I really want to spend time on. Because like, as far as an associate being Zen Supplies, don't worry about it.
That's awesome. That's why you're a cool guy, man. This guy is humble, true blue, wants to help people out. So, go ahead, John.
Well, it seems like to me with the dynamic that you have with Zen Supplies. I know we said we don't want to talk about too much, but
we can talk about the inside of the company. I would love to share.
That's what I want to get into.
Yeah, I would like to dig a little deeper, into the whole dynamic of just the whole process.
Yeah. So the way I run businesses is interesting. I run them as a tight ship, right? So and especially early on, it's like a family, right? So I have an incredible team that I know them. I know what's going on in their lives. I know I try to get to know everything because we are as a team. I don't tell people to come at work at 9 o'clock and leave at 5. And believe it or not, all of my team members working almost 24 hours. And what's really interesting, why I love problems, anytime we have a major problem with my company, it actually brings my team together. It's like sometimes you think like how much more together can you get, but I get the next shitstorm and we're even more tighter.
That's like us going through dental school. You know, it gets so tough, but you know, in the end, it just brought us even closer.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Completely relate.
Yeah, and when it's good, it's a la la land. I'm not really excited. I get very uncomfortable when it's good, and so for me, like the problems are good, and so that's why, like I will have Monday meetings, I'll have Friday meetings, I have end of the day meetings with my team just to talk through and things. And I run the team in 2 cities. I have one in Chicago, I have one overseas, and so that makes it a little bit more difficult.
How did you put this team together? How was it to get like-minded people hired to?
Yeah. I hope one of my a couple of my team members are watching right now. We have a lot of jokes inside our team. So one of them is when we make it big, we're gonna have Pitbull at our Christmas party. So you guys are all invited. We're gonna have Pitbull at our Christmas party. So
Are we invited now?
oh, 100%. You guys invited. So that's happening. And then the second joke we have is we're gonna write a book about Zen supplies. So I'm gonna write that book, and we have a whole chapter already about how I brought on my team one of my literally one of the best team members. Like she is like, if she leaves, I'll close the business, right? So literally she's that good. And so the whole process of how we went about it and how I was, it's basically she worked for the office that was my first client. She was a dental assistant, right? And then there's a lot more dynamics going on behind it. Like this office, they have 13 offices, right? She was a valuable lead assistant, certified and things like that. And I literally came up to the doctors and I said, yo, you have this dental assistant. Do you mind if I steal her? They're like, dude, go pound sand.
Yeah.
It was that. But I worked it out and I made it work. And everybody happy, everybody on the same page. But the story is a lot longer, so that's why it's a whole chapter in the book. But that's how I go about my team. For example, we're interviewing right now a guy to come in and be our onboarding person. I met him at the restaurant. I literally went and I met him, I shook the hand, and 5 minutes in, I'm like, I think you should get a job with us. And he was like, really? Like, why? I'm like, just come to the interview. He comes for the interview, and we offer him a job on the spot. So it's up to him. He's literally thinking right now until Monday, but that's how I build the team, very unconventional.
Yeah. You know what I think would be interesting if we had one or two of your team members here with us.
Oh,
we
they're
can ask
watching.
them questions.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Hey,
So
Liz, if you're watching, put a question for the guys, please.
Yeah, I want to know maybe a question you have that we should ask Tiger about what makes him tick or something that's interesting.
They
about
have
Tiger. We should ask him. That'd be cool.
Oh, they have stories.
Send us a couple questions to ask him. That'd be great.
Do it, Liz. Do it.
Is he such a great guy all the time, or no?
Yeah, I'm a different guy in the office. I'm a tough to work with.
I don't know. I don't believe it. Man, that is really cool. I've always thought these concepts you're talking about. You're not a dental office, but we apply the same concepts when people out there are starting dental offices. You're putting together a team. You got front office. You got hygienists. You have assistants. And I've heard other people say this. You don't actually go for the most qualified, credentials. You go for the person that's going to fit that role. It's easy to train.
Starbucks or something.
Yeah. Gary, something Gary said when we recorded with him was he was saying that baristas and bartenders can be some of the best people to
100%.
work in practice because they're used to multitasking. They're used to working with people. And that is interesting, not necessarily going out and finding somebody that's been an assistant for a certain amount of years, which is good too, but find that person that can be relatable. So the question I have is when you've got this team that you've built, how do you, as the founder of the company, try to get everybody on board with a similar vision, trying to get everybody to work together? You have people that have different ideas, having different personalities and different backgrounds. They're going to do things kind of similarly. Yeah. But everybody's got to work to a goal. How do you manage that?
So I'm really tough on the culture. When I say that, we talk about what drives you, right? Like Daniel asked me that question earlier. It actually just came back to me. When I was a kid, I set a goal to build a business with 250 people. Right? So most likely this business I'm going to get to 500. And then we'll see what happens. But the way I want to do it is very, very different. Like every 500 people that I'm going to have on my team, I want to know the spouses' names, the kids' names, the parents' names. I want to be at their house at least once a year. That's how I want to run. And that's how, when I interview people, I tell them that up front. I say, look, this is really different. Like, I'm going to be in your laundry. Like, literally, like, I will know the color of your socks. All right? Because I want to know. And especially when you join, you can be the greatest at whatever you're going to do. But if you don't play nicely with my team, you're out. And I fire people left and right. So that's one question that you can ask my team. I'm firing like left and right. I don't even question that. So and I have very good intuition. It's funny. My team in Minsk, right? One girl was late to office by like 2 hours. I didn't even know that, but I called her that day just to chat, and she was terrified. She's like, "Why are you calling me?" I typically call them like maybe once a week or something like, and I have managers there. But that specific girl, I called that morning. She was terrified, and I'm like, "What's up?" She's like, "I'm late." I'm like, "So what?" She's like, "Are you calling me because I'm late? Somebody told you?" I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm just calling you. But I have that intuition within me. That's like one of my strengths, so that if I feel somebody's not in tune with what we're trying to achieve, you're out.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Wow. That's that would be tough for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just having somebody just fire.
I would cave every time.
Yeah.
But it's how you approach firing. It's how you approach firing, right? I always fire with a smile. And people love when I fire them, honestly. Like, I fire them and I say, look, why would you stay here if I'm going to make it miserable for you? Why make your life miserable, right? So if you don't fit the job, and I tell you why you don't fit the job, why stay? Find something that you're going to be happy with, right? This is not a happy place for you. You're not going to make me happy, and vice versa. I'm not going to make you happy. You're going to be miserable. You're going to make everybody. So why? Like, if you're here, and then if they start bringing up the point that they're here because of the money, that's a completely wrong reason to stay in my team. Then you're definitely out.
Yeah. And it may be tough, but in the end, it's better for everybody else.
100%.
You're going to keep somebody that's showing up late consistently,
yeah.
Or, it's kind of like a tough love thing. I mean, you got, your startup is a baby.
Yeah.
Like you said, and sometimes there's tough
The
decisions.
biggest thing that I worry about is when we grow to that 500 people, and I probably will have some board members and this and that, when somebody will start dictating me to how to run the business based on the spreadsheet, I will fold again and start something new. Like, I'm terrified of that day. I never run a business based on a spreadsheet, which is very different for a lot of businesses, for a lot of startups, and for a lot of dentists. But spreadsheet is not how I make decisions.
Yeah. So can you explain to me, we want to get more into entrepreneurship and business and stuff like that, but just out of curiosity for me, how Zen Supplies works from, you have like your last box of large gloves, and then how does that work as far as the inventory, the software? Can you take us from that step, and then how practices go through that process?
So you're probably waiting for something that, like the next box automatically appears in your shelf.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, right? We're working on that.
Yeah.
Now, it's not that yet, so we're a young company, we're building. But technically, we ask offices to submit orders bi-weekly, so we find it the most efficient. And then whatever they're ready, the system knows what they have, the system knows what they need to have, and the system will suggest what they need to put an order for. They can adjust it, but then essentially they can see the other prices. They submit the order within 2 days, 2 to 4 days, the package will show up. And then they restock their levels, and then they continue using it, and it's like a cycle now.
So what kind of response have you gotten so far?
It's interesting. A lot of people get on board then without realizing that inventory management is actually a little bit harder, right? Like, I think we started at the right time because the dentistry is changing. We do need to treat dental offices a little bit more like McDonald's, not in a way, not on the clinical side, how you do procedures. I would never say that, because I think you should care about the patients more than anything else, but how you run the back office. How do you look at the balance sheet? How do you look at the profit and loss statement? How do you have systems in place? That's going to be important. And so for us, we're coming at the right time. But some doctors like it, some doctors don't. It just requires time.
And this is kind of for, you're looking at practices that are big enough, but at the same time not so big that maybe they have other issues to focus on, right? What I found really interesting, sales is being honest. I sell the best when I'm super honest. When I talk to the office and they say, well, we're going digital, we're installing X-ray, and I'm in the middle of hiring 2 dental assistants,
and I'm looking to save money, I say, well, you got better problems to deal with. Call me in 2 months, or better yet, I'll put a note on my calendar. I'll call you in 2 months. And if you need dental assistance, I'll help you find dental assistance. If you need this, I'll help you. But I'm very honest with people when it's not the right time. I'll tell them it's not the right time. I actually fired 2 customers myself. I'm happy to do that because if it just doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Now, some people, when it's the right time, it can be a small office, it can be a big office. We can adjust the platform when they can use it just for shopping purposes.
Yeah. Well, I'm not out there with my own practice yet. But just
but
hearing stuff like yeah.
It's on my calendar.
It's just cool to me. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize, I feel like you've been pretty successful, going through this process with the different transitions you've made and all that. Every successful person that we've either talked to or that we've read about or whatever the case may be, they've had a solid morning routine. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming you have...
It's tough.
Maybe break the molds. Maybe not.
So all of my friends will consider me somebody with a high level of discipline. I had morning routine from 4 o'clock until 5 o'clock written down. I would get up at 4, I would stretch until 4:15, then I would meditate, then I would read, and I would write 3 things for the day, what I'm grateful for, and then I start my day, and then I do my calls, and then I go into the gym. This business is so different that I'm changing so many things. Like for example, on my previous business, when I would sit on the computer at my desk, it had to be spotless. Like literally not a paper, nothing. I was OCD about it. So right now when I sit at my desk, I have piles and I just move them around a little bit and I'm working, and my team can admit to it. If I have 3 cups of coffee, it doesn't bother me. Yeah. Because right now what I realize, this business is so different, and that's where I talk about you need to know your strengths, right? Like for example, I think, Joe, we talked about a little bit that, Cole, I think with you too, like how do you know like how much you want to hustle, right? How do you know you want to have 1 office or 3 offices or 4 or 5? It's just got to fit your personality, right? So I'm in a position where I'm in the right position in my personal life and things like that to build this specific business. And that's why I'm willing to change. So I changed my morning routine completely. I get up and I'm on my call with the team right away because I don't want to waste even a second.
But still, the fact that you're getting up and doing something, the fact that you said you were up at 4 o'clock and you did this, and this, it obviously got you somewhere.
Yes.
You've got to get up and do something.
Yes.
Period. I want to ask you something I've heard you talk about on another podcast.
Uh-oh.
We have people who want to be entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Okay. The term is thrown around kind of loosely. An entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur. What's your advice to them? What do you say to that?
I'll be very brutal about it, and I think Dr. Larkin can agree with me on this. And a lot of people will not like me for that. If you're debating about it, you're not an entrepreneur. It's just simple. Like if you're doing something, a little bit of something, right? Even if you as an associate work, like the best example I can give you, for example, if you're an associate, you work for an office, and all you do is just show up at the time when you have the patients, and you leave when the last patient is done, you're not an entrepreneur, right? You just don't even plan about having your own office because it's going to be difficult. And the guys like you will have 10, 15 offices and they will eat you alive, right? So, but if you're an associate who gets in 2 hours prior, will take the trash out, will help clean the office, will check all the coffee stations and make sure that the gloves are there, even though it's not your job to check your supplies and things like that, and then talk to the treatment coordinator and look at the schedule and do all these little things. And then when all the patients are done, he or she will go to the doctor and say, hey doc, I had this patient today, what do you think? Is that the right treatment plan? Is this how I do it? That's the guy or the girl who will open an office and will just kill it out there. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I look at it.
Do you think maybe while somebody's pondering being an entrepreneur, they're not an entrepreneur at that time, do you think somebody can turn into an entrepreneur?
Yes, they can. I like the music though.
It's good music.
If you can keep it in the background, we could go for another hour. I think it depends on the goals. Like I think we talked about this in the car, that dentistry is such a great profession that you can literally, your dental license allows you to be a little bit of an entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is you can have one office and be very successful. But I would encourage people to stop at that point. If it's really not within your DNA, if it's not within what you want to do, like if you really want to sit at every soccer game with your kids and things like that, and you're really not into sitting and figuring out the marketing plan, just don't do it. Just be happy with one and be an entrepreneur within one office. But like I heard so many people that I would meet the first time and they say, Tiger, I'm building my first one out of 500. Give me the best deal you can because I'm going to build 500. I'm like, well, when you bid the 500, we'll talk. Yeah. And then they would end up with 2 and that's it. And then they're miserable. I've seen a lot of miserable people. And that's where I say, just know yourself. And then don't try to kill yourself for their own reasons.
Yeah. That's right. We talked about that a little bit at dinner. It's like, you got to have your why. You got to have the reason you're doing something.
Yep.
You can't be comparing yourself to everybody else. You know, Cole and I were talking about this, and I'm sure, you know, this is real here. You know, this podcast, we're talking about different life decisions we're talking about. And, you know, I have weaknesses. I also have strengths. These guys have weaknesses and they have strengths. And it's like, sometimes I feel like I need to make up for my weaknesses. You know, I'm weak. I've got to get stronger. Instead of actually utilizing my strengths and finding someone who has the strength, and then, you know, go together and be a team. Yep.
So I think, if you guys don't mind, the perfect person for that is just a dear friend, Mark Costas. Mm-hmm. He's the first one to admit, to say, I suck at 99% of the things. He's the first one to say that. He's like, I'm nothing without my team. Mm-hmm. Right? So I'm sure there are other dentists that do that. I just didn't get to know them yet. But like, I know Mark, for example. It's just a wrong cliche that, hey, for example, if you don't know how to do root canal, or if you don't know how to pull the teeth out, if you don't know, learn it and this and that, well, just get somebody else to do it. And again, I don't know that much dentistry. I don't want to speak for the clinical side. But for example, if you're the dentist, if you really, really don't want to do QuickBooks, well, you can get somebody for $15 an hour to do that for you, $20 an hour, talk to your accountant, things like that. Just don't waste your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about, for one, that's why we're so thankful we have this group to, you know, balance each other out.
There's a lot to balance.
We're individual. Yeah. I mean, we have certain weaknesses, like Joe's saying, that other people can fill that spot and vice versa. And then another thing we've talked about is that different people define success in different ways.
Yes.
You know, and if you're defining your success based on how somebody else defines their success, then you may be similar to what they're doing. Yeah. You know, if your success is being defined by somebody who has 5 practices, you get to that 5 practices, and then you're just like, my life sucks.
So, question to you guys: D4, right? What are your peers are saying? Like, what's a success for your peers?
I think it depends on.
It's tough. It depends on
who you. It depends.
Well, just average. Think about your friend David, for example. I don't know if it's David or somebody. Like, what they think is success is, like when they graduate from dental school.
Probably just graduation for one thing.
Yeah, I think some people at graduation. I think ultimately everyone that graduates dental school views success as, I have my own practice. You know, it's like, I'm an owner. I'm monetarily wealthy. I make my own decisions, and.
But then again, it also boils down to their personality type too, you know.
It is, but that is the success. Mm-hmm. That's what I think the majority of dentists probably think is successful coming out of school.
I mean, it's so interesting you guys say that. It's actually, I've seen associates making a lot more money than the practice owner. Mm-hmm. So if it's the money, then be an associate. You could be the greatest associate on the planet Earth and make more money than owning an office. Right? Again, it's not very popular for me to say this, but it's true. Right? You can specialize, you can be a pediatric dentist and you can make $250,000, just pay off your loan and you have a happy life. Right? You can be an orthodontist and make a lot more money if it's about the money for you. And again, we won't judge people for that. It's their drive. Now, if you really want to go through the struggle of having your own office, it's not always pretty. It's not always fun. And you have to deal with a lot of people. You can't just turn off your brain and flip the switch and at 5 o'clock and go home and say, I'm done, that's it. Or hire an office manager and expect that office manager is going to run for you. It's just not going to happen. And so, like, just find for yourself. Yeah. But I think a lot of people are sold in their own vision.
So you talked about, when we were eating dinner, you talked about kind of how you define success.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much about starting, having startups and doing certain things. It's sending your mom overseas, right?
Oh,
it's
man,
taking care of your family.
You hit home.
So explain that. I mean, I think for all of us and for most people out there, your mom is like, that's who you are. She's she's your first kind of love, I guess, in a way. Yeah. She's the one that made you breakfast in the morning. You'd love to send her overseas. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of where you are. Right?
Yeah. So I told the guys that I measure success very differently. I've seen a lot of people. And again, I don't want to judge people. I don't want to say that, look, everybody should have a perfect family. Everybody has their own story. But I think the way I measure it, at least among my very, very close friends, is how do you take care of your parents? If you're there when they need you, not when you want to go, when it's convenient to go, when you genuinely send your parents to whatever is important to send. I know that a couple of my friends, when they made really first good money, they sent their parents to like Italy for a month and took care of the whole thing. To me, that's success.
Dude, me too. Like when I walked across the stage on Sunday, and like I feel like I'm like you, it hits home, and I think all of us do. It's like my mom, my dad, my grandparents were sitting there in the audience, and like you look at it, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I worked hard to get through dental school, but I didn't have this opportunity without the sacrifices that they made and their parents made. And it's like, to me, the most successful thing I could do is to give them back the things that they wanted.
Imagine how many kids didn't get into dental school because their mom and their dad told them that they really suck at something. And it hurt them and they didn't get in, right? And we'll agree that dental is one of the best professions out there, right? One of the best fields. And how many great dentists we won't have because of that. And so it all comes down to parenting.
Yeah. So Tiger, we got another question from a
awesome.
listener, actually Daniel's sister, and she just wanted to know.
What's her name?
What's her name, Daniel?
Jenna.
Jenna, thank you, Jenna.
She just wants to know, how do you build trust within your staff?
One of the people that I follow, who I really respect, has this saying. So how do you build trust with your team? By building trust. Right? It sounds simple and stupid, but by building trust, meaning that I don't hold anything with my team. I'm a very, very open book. And I feel something, I would sit down and I talk. I don't hold. It was actually funny. We got ourselves in a pretty deep problem back in April. And the way we got out is I got the whole team together. I showed them where we at. And it was pretty bad. So if I had the wrong people on the team, they would got up and leave. And my team, again, they looked at it. They know where I'm coming from. They know my intent. And if I'm honest, first of all, you need to be honest. And then you just need to hustle and build that trust with them.
That's awesome.
Can you give us maybe 2 or 3 points that for an owner to be successful, whether it be gaining trust, whatever it may be, to try to turn that into a successful company? Yeah. What are some things that you feel like just have to be there?
So first of all, I would actually, I think I can come up with 3 things. And a lot of them I'll borrow from, again, the person that I respect a lot in business. So first is just know yourself, right? Again, be confident and know yourself with, is it going to be one practice? Is it going to be 22 chairs, one practice? Is it going to be just a general dentistry? You're going to add specialties and things like, just know yourself. Know what you can do, know what's going to make you happy. Number 2 is, again, I'll use this terminology. If you decide to be a business owner, be a business owner 100%. Don't try to be half pregnant. There's way too many people that are like, well, I'll do this a little bit. I'm going to try marketing. You can't try marketing. You either do it or you don't. So if you're trying to become a practice owner, just be the practice owner. And then the third one is, I would just say, again, way too many dentists, they just somehow weirdly think about their team. I would just say, especially if you're one practice owner, I mean, that's a completely different game compared to 15 practices owner. Love your team.
Yeah.
Just literally give them hugs all day long. Like how many times you would just roll up to your receptionist and be like, hey, just how is your day? Can I give you a hug? Like a lot of people don't do it, but I get it. Like some people are more, what is it called? Like closed off, extroverts versus introverts, or vice versa. But I mean, again, it takes that to become the good business owner, is just be out of the comfort zone.
So Tiger, I know you talk a lot about the importance of leaving a legacy,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the type of legacy that you want. So you're at the end of your life. You look back. What do you hope to see, and what would you define as a successful life and leaving a good legacy for your family and friends?
You know, actually, I joke about this with my team a lot. Is what I would like to do is imagine I built the 500 people team. I have this business. It's actually what I would like to see at the end, which is a little bit controversial to what I said earlier. I would like to, literally, I painted in my head. I have this big glass building, right? Stainless steel glass building, beautiful 3-story building. I park somewhere way out far, right, on my car. And I walk in and the cars are parked and it's about 9:30. Everybody's in and I walk through and nobody even knows me. Right? So just not a single, I can look and people would not even wave, because then I build a well-oiled machine that can work on its own. Like if somebody knows me, great, and I'm sure they will, like it's just not going to happen. But that's what I see in my head, you know, leaving that behind me, that it just works. Right? And then the next thing is just make sure my kids are good.
Powerful stuff.
Did we ever get any message from anybody on your team?
I don't know. Liz, where are you?
Is anybody on there?
No,
I'll text her right now.
I want to hear something. I want to have a question from somebody, from Liz. Is that her name, Liz?
Yeah.
Come on, Liz, where you at?
So this has been nice. First Facebook Live. This was Tiger's idea. Do a little Facebook Live for the podcast.
And then first podcast is Dentist.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of firsts today. We've had a lot of firsts here lately, actually.
This has been cool.
I think we need to do it again at this location.
Facebook Live.
So we're coming back to Dr. Larkin's house, and this is our new studio.
Yeah, this is the official. The Darley View Inn is now the official.
The official studio.
Yeah. Let's see. What's Dr.
Justin?
Dr. News always say? He's like coming from
Studio 1A.
Yeah. So hey, we're coming to you live from.
You know, while we're
Studio
waiting
Darley
on
Inn.
some
Studio
questions, let's do some shout outs. You know, because we were talking earlier
Yes.
about people that have put into our life, and just like immediately for us, the Life and Dentistry Podcast, like people that have directly impacted our success, and we were not right here without them, is, Alan Mead, Justin Moody, Gary Takis. These guys directly influenced us, and it helped us.
Hey, can't forget Dr. Kirk, man. That was the first time we got our voices out, man.
That is true. Dr. Kirk and the voices of dentistry, everyone there, huge. Dr. Costas is kind of the inspiration for, I think, probably everybody.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, we got to give another shout out to Matthew Whitson.
Yeah.
He is our fifth wheel that keeps on trucking.
We miss you, buddy.
And we miss him. He's out of town right now. He's with his family. Had something come up, and we miss you, brother.
I tell you what, you don't realize how important somebody is until they're not there. I tell you what, this ain't the same without Brother Whitson.
Is that right?
So Tiger, Liz asked,
That's
what happens when we review onboarding?
So we'll
Review onboarding.
repeat the question, and it's from Liz.
What happens?
oh, she's setting
So
me up.
this is Liz. This is one of Tiger's team members for Zen Supplies.
Oh yeah, I knew you were gonna
we
do
asked
it
for
to
a
me.
question,
What was it?
and the question was what?
So it's actually, when we talk about the strengths, at some point when your team is small, you got to pick up the slack and do something that you don't really like to do. One of the things that part of our business is when we sign up new customers, we actually need to onboard offices, and it's a long training. It's about 4 sessions, 1 hour each, and it's a great thing that we do, and that's why we're looking for somebody to take over. But my energy is not there. And she caught me at least once or twice falling asleep while I was, Because I'm like, I can't be, I'm only in 2 stages. I'm either sleeping and I'm going. I can't be in the middle where I'm like, I have to sit and watch how people move the mouse and do things. And I tell them, well, now you click this button. I literally fall asleep.
Yeah.
And she caught me and it was bad. It wasn't good.
Liz, thanks for sending in that question. That was awesome.
Thank you. Dana,
I hope that's what she meant.
Yeah, there was a question from Bob Cole.
From Bob.
Bob Cole, he says, how do you get rid of meth staining on your teeth?
We're going to ignore the question.
Don't know Bob Cole.
He's a hooligan.
Dr. Larkin, do you know how to get rid of meth staining?
Tiger, we just want to thank you so much, man, for coming to Lexington, being here with us. You know, we know you're so busy, and for you to come down here, we are blessed. We're humbled that you would do this. You know, we've had a great time. We're looking forward to a great night with you. If there's anything ever we can do to help you, like I said at dinner, our voice is little bitty, but you tell us and we're on it like that.
Can we jam about this for literally 2 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
So I just want, not for example, but I would like for your listeners to just take this as something to think about, right? As you guys graduate from dental school, I'm sure a lot of your listeners are in that stage. When you guys graduate from dental school, think about long term. I'm literally asking you, please do not think about the best job ever, the best this, the more paying money this, and the more of these. I told you guys as soon as I got in a car today is the reason what you guys are winning, and I mean winning big time, like 4 or 5 of you guys got together recording podcasts, and a lot of people responding positively is because your intent is clear. Like what you want to achieve is super understandable for people, and it's genuine, and it's very, very long term. Right? So it's like maybe one day something good is going to come out of it. We're just going to go and do it. And I think a lot of people way too hang up on today versus what's going to happen later on. And so I just applaud you guys. Like just have all the guests that you guys had so far lined up and fly in and meet you guys here and have support from Dr. Larkin. And just like, for me, it was an easy yes. I did not even question it. I did not even think about it. I had my tickets booked the next day. It's like, it's easy. But I give you guys a ton of credit. It's not just because I wanted to get out and do something in Kentucky. It's just because you guys made it super easy because of who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. And, you know, something, I mentioned this to you, but Dr. Larkin said just a few weeks ago, that stuck out to me. He said, all I know is we're on a ride somewhere, and we don't know exactly where it's going, but it's going to be fun. We're on a journey, and so we're all excited, and you know, we're humble beginnings, and you know, still kind of on the front end of things, trying to figure things out. And we appreciate guys like you that are out there hustling, and we can learn from people like you. So we appreciate you coming in town.
Talking about Dr. Larkin, I think we just had a question come in from Dr. Larkin.
Have you ever crossed paths with Gary Vanderchuck?
Oh, I did. I get reference to him a lot. And again, sometimes I feel bad like just saying stuff that he says, but I started saying things way before I got to know him. So it's very fun. I highly suggest for people to check him out, Gary Vaynerchuk. He curses a lot, but I think that at one of our Zen Supplies events, we'll eventually get him. And he'll be the keynote speaker. But him and I are pretty similar. And it's very interesting for me to see that playing out. And to me, the biggest thing is when I look at the mirror and I say, "Do you?" Yeah, it's true. So you just go with it. Gary Vaynerchuk.
Right, we'll have to look him up.
Yeah, and before you guys end, I also want to say thank you to all the people that listen to your podcast. Yeah. I think without people listening is pretty tough to have a podcast.
Yeah, no, we'd be in trouble. That's for sure.
Before we're done, how can people, you do a lot of like Instagram Live, Facebook Live, how can people follow you on social media?
One platform I literally live in is Instagram right now. So @tiger.safarov. I'm literally there all the time, answer questions. So my team is pretty active on Facebook, Snapchat, Zen Supplies, Instagram account. I can be on Twitter. It's just not natural for me. I know a lot of people like Gary Takas, for example. He's really good at Twitter. And I can teach them how to do Instagram if I need to. But like things like that is just, I'm on Insta more than anything else.
So that's Tiger, Tiger.Safarov, and it's Safarov, correct?
Yeah.
Bingo.
Nice.
All right.
Oh man, we got Tiger. I mean, this has been awesome, man. Thanks again for coming down. I can't explain how awesome this weekend's been. We're just getting started. It's going to be even better tomorrow. So, guys, thanks for tuning into the episode today. A special thanks to all the viewers also on the Facebook Live and Instagram Lives today. Thanks for the questions.
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget to follow our journey through Life and Dentistry on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Life and Dentistry, and on Twitter at Life and Dent. If you have any questions for us, you can send us an email to lifeanddentistry@gmail.com. And if you haven't done already, be sure to head over to our reviews and ratings page on iTunes and let us know how we're doing. And also hit the subscribe button. That way you don't have to miss another episode coming out. Again, thank you all for tuning into the show, because we couldn't do this without you. And with that, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Boom. Oh, Tiger's a beast.
This is awesome.
He's
This
a
was
beast,
good.
man. Oh, that's
Good
awesome.
job, guys.
That's our longest episode. We just went
Yeah.
to